I'm going to show you exactly how to start buying rental properties while working a full-time job. Today, I'm going to show you exactly where you need to start to have several rental properties over the next few years. So why do you even want to invest if you have a full-time job? Well, simply put, there are so many tax benefits with write-offs to help offset some of that W-2 income you have coming in. Not to mention the passive income and the chance at building generational wealth for you and your family. And lastly, who wants to work forever? So this is going to help set you up for your retirement. So let's jump in and talk about how you can start to build your strategy moving forward. Very first thing you want to do is you want to define your goals and figure out why you're even doing this in the first place. You want to make sure that your goals and your objectives are actually achievable and something you can attain to. So here's a perfect example. Let's say over the next year, you want to buy 1 to 2 rental properties that average about $300 in cash flow every month. For most places in the country, that is going to be completely reasonable. Everyone can do that. The only thing that is going to stand in your way is how dedicated you're going to be able to be to saving your money, not spending it unnecessarily. Taking that time to actually sit down and write out all your goals is going to be huge in figuring out when you can do this, because it is definitely when you can do this, not if. The next part of this is doing your research and educating yourself all about real estate. Taking advantage of the resources that we have with internet like YouTube and ebooks, things like that are going to be huge just to educate yourself on how this all works. With real estate, there are so many terms and complex numbers that you need to know, but you can learn this. Doing things like reading books, listening to podcasts, and watching your favorite YouTuber help to explain things about real estate is going to make it way easier. And let's not forget how important it is to have mentors in the real estate space. I currently have 2 real estate mentors that have over 30 years of real estate experience, from things as simple as just buying a primary residence all the way up to doing triple net commercial leases. So surrounding yourself with people who know what they're talking about, who've made those mistakes, who you can learn from is huge. Another part of this first area of building your strategy is going to be market selection. Now, there's nothing wrong with going outside of your state or even outside of your local city, but you have to be very careful, do tons of research. You're gonna need property management. You're gonna need a lot of stuff, so please do your research. Picking the right neighborhoods, the right location in the right city is gonna be so massive, and this could be the difference between you making money and not, because there are gonna be some areas that just are not good for rental properties. There's no good schools, there's not good shopping, there's nothing around there that would make people wanna rent. So now that you have a good strategy, you know where you're gonna buy, you have all the market data that you need to buy. Now you have to actually find and analyze these deals. I've already done 2 videos in a huge series that talks about how to find deals, how to analyze them, and you should go check that out if you haven't, because that is going to be huge and go into detail on how to find, analyze deals, get lenders, and where to get money. But a few tips that I can share here is you want to use all the tools that you have at your disposal. Using free tools like Zillow, Redfin, or even your local MLS data is going to be massive to show you your comps, how much things can rent for, make sure you're not going to overpay for a property. But the absolute biggest thing here that you want to do is you want to find undervalued, distressed, or ugly properties, because you're going to usually find these at a great deal. And so yes, that means you're going to have to network, find some wholesalers, find off-market deals, potentially throw it old school and go door knocking. Whatever you can do to find these off-market deals is important, and the only real success comes from finding these truly distressed properties. One tip that I've recently started doing is actually going onto Facebook and looking into Facebook groups. Here we have a Facebook group that is all about off-market deals, so don't discredit what you can find on Facebook. Now, when it comes to financing, there's definitely some strategies you want to utilize because you're going to have to save up money. I have personally used all types of different ways to finance my properties, from hard money loans to cash, lines of credit, traditional conventional loans, debt service coverage ratio loans, and everything in between. They all have their pros, they all have their cons, but more importantly, they have specific uses. And because you're working a full-time job, it should not be that difficult to start saving money. Whether all you can save is $300, $400, $500 a month, or if you can save $2,000, $3,000 a month, you gotta start saving now for that down payment. Because if you buy a distressed property, more than likely the lender is gonna require 15, 20, maybe even 25% depending on your credit score. Because depending on your credit score, the lender is probably gonna require anywhere from 15 to 25%. And if you go the more conventional route and buy something turnkey, ready to rent, that's gonna cash flow, you don't have to do any work, Lenders are always going to require a minimum of 20% down on these deals. And yes, there may be those off chance deals where you can get 15% down, but that comes at a cost and it is usually not a good deal. Next thing you want to consider, because you're working full time, is definitely hiring a property manager. I talked about it earlier how property management is huge, and this is going to save you so much time, effort, and money because let's face it, if you're working full time, you have a family, you're not gonna have time to manage pipes bursting, AC going out, and that is exactly what a property manager will do for you. And yes, there is going to be a monthly expense. Sometimes they take 8 to 10% from your gross rent, but at the end of the day, it is a write-off and an expense that you can take. So don't think of property management as a bad, as a negative. Think about it as you saving time, and time is actually the most expensive thing we have because it's priceless. But there are gonna be some potential challenges that you will face. So let's talk about a few so you can prepare for when this is gonna happen. So one of the biggest things that I've come across is tenants just skipping out, missing their rent, or leaving your property heavily damaged. Now, this is exactly why we create leases, we have them ironclad, and we take security deposits for things like this. Now, some things are gonna vary from state to state, but if you live in a landlord-friendly state, then you really don't have to worry about too much if they damage your property beyond the security deposit. You can easily take them to small claims court and recoup the money. Now, for those less fortunate living in a non-landlord-friendly state, you're gonna have a lot more hoops to jump through, but it's still possible. Another thing is factoring in vacancy rates. On all my properties, I usually factor in a minimum of 5 to 8% on every single property. Because let's face it, you're not gonna have a tenant move in and just stay there for 6, 7, 8 years on all of your properties. Usually after about 1 to 2 years, a lot of tenants, they move and you're gonna have to deal with touching up and doing things, and there's gonna be months where you're not gonna have a tenant. So planning for it now rather than later is gonna save you so much money. Another issue that I've personally come across is just simply finding tenants. Now, leveraging an agent who has access to the MLS, yes, that can save you a lot of time because they'll be able to market it a lot better than you just doing it for free. But if you don't wanna pay an agent, no problem. You can use free websites like Zillow, Redfin, Apartments.com to market your own property. And again, using things like Facebook Marketplace can easily find you a tenant. Now let's talk about having enough money in reserves, because I've seen this so many times where people will buy a rental property, think I'm just gonna collect money and I don't need to save it. I just can spend it all. And no, you'd be dead wrong. Having enough money in reserves is huge. I advise everyone that I work with to keep a minimum of 4 months of your expenses in an account that you never touch. This is gonna allow you to have enough money for when you have vacancies, for if you have to do some emergency repairs, any kind of work that needs to be done to the property. You wanna have money set aside for when, I promise you, not if, but when things go wrong. And look, there's so much more to this that I can't go into right now, but I've started a whole video series for 2025 going in detail to walk you through every single step of how to buy your very first rental property.